I want to talk today about belonging, but I want to talk today about belonging as though it is something we're going to do for others rather than so much they're doing for us. So most of the time we think about belonging, it's like, what are the circumstances of my life or where I'm living or the people I'm with that make me feel like I belong, and now that's good and necessary and everybody needs it. And so if you are especially wondering if you belong, can be so painful to be by yourself, to feel as though something's wrong because you don't feel like you belong. And I think sometimes the world is not configured in just the way that we would naturally find our way to feeling belonging. But isn't there a way we can be an agent in this belonging business ourselves, even if we don't feel like we belong? And that is to set the conditions so other people can feel like they belong. So something I've noticed here in this church community is that when people contribute their time, their talent, their treasure, they begin to be owners of the place. It becomes their place. It's not like, oh, I go to your church or that church. It's their church. And as you give of your time, talent, or treasures, you contribute into it, you take ownership. And so when it comes to belonging, it would seem to me that it might also be true that if you give belonging, you might find belonging, right? That as we make the conditions for other people to feel as though they have a place or they have a place with you, we set the conditions for ourselves feeling like we belong, because now we're the owners of belonging and we're giving it away. And what you give away, you get back in return. So that's the idea. There's a phrase comes out of Africa called Ubuntu. It basically means I am because we are. It is a shared humanity. It is, the philosophy honors dignity, survival, cooperation, being a part of. And I think it is a basic thing to Ubuntu that you belong. But you belong in part because you're acting like you belong. Do you know what I mean? Didn't your mother ever tell you, maybe yours didn't, but act like you belong here? Do you do anything? Right? And generally that means be respectful of others, pay attention, do what's necessary, contribute, doesn't it? And so when we act like we belong, we do more often than when we don't. And you know, one of the things that if your surest ways to not belong in a community is to do everything but respect people, don't respect people. In other words, don't contribute, don't make space for, don't honor other people, right? A surefire way of being kicked out of the group, right? So I want to employ a couple of ideas, and then I would like us to meditate. We're going to meditate longer, have a longer session after this shorter talk, because I want us to practice this open-heartedness. Now, but I'll come to that in a minute. What I'd really like to talk about right at this moment is the division that is, let's say, blue-red, that is in the culture. There's a book I've been reading called Belonging, and the man says that many of the people, mostly in the arguments about belonging, is about their tribe. They do it because they want to belong to the tribe. It's not because they necessarily believe the ideas of the tribe. They want to belong in the tribe is more important than the philosophy that they are espousing. They espouse it so that they will belong. Now, isn't that interesting? That we basically think we hold these political views largely because we think they're right, or in some way that we're doing the best, this is the best idea. But many of those ideas, when presented from the other team, are adopted immediately by the other team. So, isn't that strange? So there was let's say this experiment that was done. It was about social programs. One was advocating for being very generous with the poor. One was advocating for not being generous with the poor. The Democrats were supposed to be the ones who say be generous, but in this paper, it was the other way around. The Republicans were doing it. And when Republicans were asked, would they support being generous with the poor? They said yes, of course, it reflects our humanity. And the Democrats would say, would you support taking away the support for the poor? Yes, so that they would develop independence. And it was just the opposite of what they're generally saying otherwise. But they stayed in their tribe. If their tribe said, we do this, they went for it. If the tribe said the opposite, they went for it. What's remarkable is everybody thought that they were being objective. On the whole, no one saw through this. They basically all believed what they thought their tribe would want them to believe. That was everybody. Everybody of each ilk believed what they thought their tribe would believe. So do you know what that means? Everybody but you was wrong. Something nobody in this room would do. And so the question is, how do you get yourself to change? How does one get another to change? The story was told by the author. He went to Cornell. He was a Jew from New Jersey with very liberal views, and a cracker from Georgia was his roommate, who had very opposite views. And they would have very heated debates. And one of the debates they would have would be about homosexuality. And the guy from Georgia was very articulate and actually won the arguments as far as argument goes, but basically the author said he abhorred his thoughts, what he was actually thinking. The author went overseas for a year abroad, comes back, and his friend, his roommate, looks better than he's ever looked. He's smiling more, he's more happy. His roommate never felt like he belonged at Cornell, largely on political grounds. That year, he had joined a fraternity so that he might begin to feel more comfortable. And he had found some people that he really liked, and he was having a sense of belonging. And at dinner one time, he started to espouse his anti-gay ideas. The man across the table from him, one of the people he really liked, jumped up and said, "You've just criticized my whole life." And it turned out the man across the table was gay. And when this Southerner began to talk with him and apologize and get what it was like to be gay, his ideas began to soften. There was an anti-gay poster put up in the bathroom, and he went to find who did that. He became the espouser of the views of his former roommate because he began to see in another commonality, friendship. And they were not other, they were Ubuntu. They were the self, the same. And with that, attitudes can change. When we totally stop criticizing and find commonality, it's been proven that you can help people change their mind by respecting them. that if you respect them and their values, they are willing to be changed. And if you don't, they will fight like hell to keep those beliefs, whatever they are. And so this idea of encompassing the other with respect and dignity, the idea of being a friend to them first, is the beginning of softening the position that they think their tribe would want them to have. Now they're beginning to form a bigger tribe of the generalized humanity. And that comes because someone has treated them like a human being and not like the enemy. Has it been true for you that once you felt on the outside and then somebody honored you, respected you, befriended you, and with that you were pulled into the circle and even changed your mind about who the others were? The so-called other was no longer other, but us. So this practice of respecting others, of doing your best to see your commonality in them, begins to build the conditions in which they will feel like they belong enough to be on your tribe, in your tribes. And since we are tribal in our thoughts, maybe we will begin to bridge the gap between the red and blue. When we realize that we are just as guilty as they are of this defense of the tribal identity. And if you think about it, we were born with DNA that developed over thousands or maybe millions of years, in which belonging in the tribe was survival itself. And so defense of this tribe actually causes physiological changes in the body when you don't defend, when someone threatens the ideas of your tribe, when anything makes you feel like you would separate from your tribe, you began to have a physiological response, and hence the unwillingness to see the facts, because the facts don't matter. The psyche, the DNA is what you go on. So even though you can be confronted with evidence against it, you will not see it and only deny it if your tribe is threatened. That's how we got to where we are today. A world bifurcated, separated, and actually in danger. I'd like to take this up a notch. I think one of the things that we can do to set the conditions of belonging is to set our hearts open and to do energetic activity in the world. There's a company in California called Heart Math who's done a lot of studies on the idea of coherence, both internal and collectively. And one of the things they would say is that if people can move into their hearts, keep their attention in their hearts, their breath in their hearts, then they move into a state of coherence within their own psyche, within their own being, their physical being. The heart and mind begin to become coordinated. And some of the attributes that happen out of that are that the heart rate variability goes up, which is a good thing. And the sense of the parasympathetic nervous system is activated, which is also a good thing, unless you're actually fighting somebody. And the third thing is that you begin to set the conditions for relationship. It's also a good thing. And the fact that the heart has such a strong resonance, much more than the brain, a magnetic field that can be felt at some distance. And part of the reason why we think we can feel another person is because the heart radiates enough magnetic energy that we can sense it. We, as a receptor, it's part of the reason when the prayer chaplains pray with you, the very first thing they do is they move to their heart. They come on the heart wavelength, and it is on the carrier wave of the heart, of the energy of the heart, of that heart love vibration, that the words are spoken. And when that happens, the receiver can feel it, not only hear it. And so when we do this work of moving to our hearts and reminding ourselves that love can be unconditional, not that you have to be in my tribe for me to love you, but you could love your enemies, so-called enemies, as Jesus said. When we practice moving to the heart, having the vibration of the heart as our personal vibration. So you know people that you run into that sometimes you just go, boy, that's an angry person, right? I don't want to be around that, unless you want to be angry too. I'll skip that story. But anyway, this experience of coming to the heart sets the condition for the other person to feel your Ubuntu. For you to radiate dignity, love, respect, survival, commonality. And so if we can get it to where we do this automatically, or we do it when we say we want to do it, just by saying, I'm going to do it now because I know how and I have practiced it, then I think we become the owners of belonging. And we bestow it on others. And in giving it away, we gain it. Like everything else. If you want more of it, give it away. So I invite us to do now some heart meditation. And the way we do it is not very complicated. Basically, the heart responds to your attention. So you bring your attention to the heart. You bring your breath to the heart, which is a way of imagining that the breath is coming into and out of the heart rather than through the sinus. And then let yourself drop into the heart, which is largely, in my opinion, about not feeding your head, but feeding the energy that often goes to the head to the heart. Now there are, inside the body, there's a vagus nerve that goes from the head to the heart and other organs as well. But one of the things they noticed is that there are more lines of communication from the heart to the head than from the head to the heart. So the heart is actually telling the head quite often what to think and do, and we think it's the other way around. But if you can train your heart to activate, then you begin to train your psyche also to be of generosity, kindness, and respect. And then you naturally do the facial actions, the bodily movements that say to another, you belong. I saw this on Thursday. We have a class in which we're doing this so-called book study. And there were 25 people there, and we broke up into groups of 4. And we were supposed to tell about a time when we belonged and when we didn't belong. And I was watching them, and almost invariably, everybody was doing, as they were listening, were leaning in slightly, smiling, if not broadly, at least upturned on the edges, paying attention. All that which says you are important to me and what you have to say matters, which is, what does that feel like but belonging? And when we practice our heart being open, we set a vibratory state around us that is the equivalent of smiling, leaning in, and saying, "You matter to me." So let's practice. We're just going to do the heart. And here's how we'll go. We'll just do like we always do, because we usually practice this to some degree of every meditation. So let's close our eyes if it's comfortable. Place your hand on your heart if that's comfortable. One thing the hand does is it has its own energy, and so it activates the heart somewhat just placing it there. But it also keeps the attention in the heart. And then let the breath be focused there. Even though you're breathing with your belly, it feels like it's focused in the heart. Imagine a light in front of you, like a sun, pouring its energy into the heart. And bring to mind someone you love, or a scene that is beautiful to you. And develop a sense of love or appreciation. The breath and thought working together to create the vibration of love and acceptance. Imagine, sense, feel a growing sense of energy in the heart. Let the energy of the heart now begin to also fill the body, so you may see it as light radiating from the heart or feel it as energy. And as the energy of the heart begins to fill the body, let some of it escape into the outside of your skin. And from here, let it escape a little farther, perhaps 2 feet, 3 feet around the body. And now just imagine you can flood this whole building with love, with acceptance, with honor, with dignity. Now see your world bathed in this energy. And starting with the people that are easy to love, radiate to them that they might feel loved and accepted. And then radiate to people you don't care one way or the other too much about, that they may feel loved and accepted. And finally, let's pick somebody we don't like much and send them love and acceptance as well. This is the world we're creating, where we belong and we help others belong. And so it is. I hope you got something out of today's service. We intend to bring you things that will help you in your life become more of who you want to be, give you the freedom of forgiveness and the hope of expectancy that your life will unfold in a way that brings you joy, happiness, and is a contribution to the world. If you would like to contribute to this ministry, please go to unitytriangle.org, hit the donate button, and it will lead you into an easy way of doing that. We thank you for your attention and look forward to seeing you again here.